So what is essentially the Scholars Challenge? The Scholars Challenge is a multiple choice test which has choices that range from A, B, C, D, and E, a total of five um, answers, possible answers. And in the Scholar Challenge, there are 120 questions which you and I have to answer within 60 to 75 minutes. And you might be wondering, well, ShahZain, isn't there a fixed number that you have to answer these questions in? And yes, you're right. But for the regional rounds, I believe, personally, as I went to the Nepal regional round, in the regional round, I was given 60 minutes to answer 120 questions, whereas in the global and ToC, I was given 75 minutes to answer the 120 questions. So it may vary whether you're in the regional rounds, global rounds, or even ToC. But Scholars Challenge follows a unique, unique point system that you might not be aware of. The Scholars Challenge, unlike other multiple tests at school where you're only allowed to answer one question, is that you can answer you can fill in more than one box. What this means is that if you're uncertain that the answer is A or B, you could tick both of the circles. And if you were to get that question right, you would get 0.5 points. And as stated down here, one box filled in equals 1 point. If you were to get these values correct, you would get that many points for basically ticking those boxes in. So what would the booklets actually look like at the Scholars Challenge? So the booklets would essentially be given to you at the start of the Scholars Challenge, and you would basically have one booklet and one piece of paper. So in the booklet, there would be all the 120 questions and all the subject areas and basically all the questions. And on the piece of paper, there would be all the boxes which you have to tick in. So it would go from 1 to 120, and there would be 5 boxes which you could possibly tick. So moving on, how do we actually study? Okay, so on to the study tips. Now, for a beginner, you might be wondering, where do I start? I am lost. And don't worry, I was in your shoes once. And these are a lot of the resources you can use to actually study. So one really good place to start is the official World Scholars Cup website. And here, what beginners can actually do is that they can actually go into these topics, such as, here we go again, history redu. And what they can do is they can read all of this text, right? They can read all of this text about paleo diets, about museums, and whatnot, and recall all of that information. And some of you guys might be wondering, hey, ShahZain, what are the words highlighted in blue? And what purpose do they actually serve? What these words in highlighted in blue actually are that they are articles which give you more information on the topic, which may come in the Scholars Challenge. So if you are a student who wants to go for 6 medals in the Scholars Challenge, for example, or even wants to get a gold, I suggest that for each subject area, you go into these articles and read each one and recall a lot of that information by maybe talking to your family, by maybe talking to your friends about the article that you learned. And you might come again to me asking me, well, ShahZain, why aren't these words highlighted in blue even though they're related to topics that we have to study? Well, this is because you have to answer the ones that basically have those bubbles next to them, right? The bubbles next to them. You have to research them yourself. So if you were to basically be given a list of things to study, you would basically type it in to your search bar and essentially study that thing or a place. And that is basically the basics for beginners who are basically stuck and where to actually begin. So in the next part, I will go on to websites which are really good and that you should actually use. Now on to one of the Scholars Cup Challenge websites that are really essential to use, is the World Scholars Cup Beijing alpacas. So if you were to go on this website, you would just go into your search bar and type in World Scholars Cup Beijing alpacas.com. And here, what you would find is that you would be greeted in the homepage. And if you were to start and study for the Scholars Challenge, you would have to press on the Resources tab right here. And here you would be transported into basically all the topics that are discussed in the Scholars Cup official website. And what this website aims to achieve is that it aims to basically summarize the articles really, really nicely. So, as per mentioned before, you would have to read articles about that certain topic, such as dioramas, for example. So as you can see, there's a lot of information that you would have to take in. But what this and other websites aim to do is basically they aim to summarize this information and basically allow you to relay it to yourself really, really well. For example, in this article, it might mention a really essential figure such as Aaron Delhantley, and in this summary, they also mention Aaron Delhantley and what he actually did. And this, what they do is basically they do this for every article, and also they do this for every thing you have to research and summarize it really, really well. Um, as mentioned before, this is an essential website which I think you should use to basically take in a lot of information without having to read a billion word article. Now going on to a more team-based study. Now onto the team-based study area, I believe that a place to start if you were to study with a team is quizzes or Kahoots. So what quizzes and Kahoots aims to achieve is that it aims to give you questions that challenges your thinking, and it basically aims to give you topics that are related to Scholars Cup. So as you can see, I searched up World Scholars Cup 2023 Introduction, and it basically gives you questions related to Scholars Cup, which might actually come in the real test. So if you were to do this with your friends, you could basically get in a group and start a live quiz and answer the questions together, relaying all of that information. And this could also be help for the bowl, which you can look on videos from Avanexplains or other resources online. And another really good team website uses Quizlet. So Quizlet basically is flashcards. You might be familiar with flashcards, you might not be familiar with flashcards, but flashcards are essentially what um, they aim to basically on the front, there is a question such as what are dioramas? And on the back, if you flip, it gives you a brief summary of what dioramas are. And you could essentially test your teammate, like, hey, teammate, what are dioramas? And they might answer, and you could press the back, and you could look at it and basically compare the answer that is given and compare the answer to your teammates, whether they are right or wrong. As per mentioned by Afan explained, a scholar who studies is a scholar who succeeds. And so if you and I were to study really, really hard for the Scholars Challenge, we could get even 6 gold medals. So as mentioned again, a scholar who studies is a scholar who succeeds. So everyone, get to studying.